Okay, we've got some issues with counters again. But before we get into that, let me give you the story so far. In brief, things went off the rails for a variety of reasons. You can look back to see why. But essentially, the Brits were unable to push the Italians back after their initial invasion anywhere near as far as they did historically. I think they got Sidi al-Barani. Maybe not, maybe not. But anyhow, they certainly didn't get Bardia and Solom and Tobruk and further. And that allowed the Italians to push back on the Brits and take Mersa Matrua a little early, get to the El Alamein line early and break through, double line actually that was there. And eventually they broke through with some German help, but essentially they got stopped by the river line. And that proved to be an insurmountable barrier. Even though they had some numerical superiority, they didn't have enough supplies. They didn't have enough effort, enough impetus to get across. And so now the Axis is building up a defensive line, and Commonwealth is building up forces in Cairo to try to clear that line. Even at the same time, they have quite a bit in defense here. Now, I started, as always, programming out, hey, here's, placing the reinforcements for this next month. And I came across one that is no good. 50th Infantry Division, I can't read, that's the problem. I thought it was 5th Indian Division because I started doing that. It's 50th Infantry Division that I'm supposed to be getting. The 5th Indian didn't have the right unit number, but it had one that's close. So like here I'm looking for the 69th Infantry Brigade. I found the 29th and I'm like, oh, it could be a typo. Every time I do this, it's helpful that I do it on camera because otherwise I might just do the fix, right? But that camera gives me yet one more check. It's not like I haven't double and triple checked already. It's just somehow I'm more capable of finding my errors and looking stupid on camera than I am in finding them when I'm not. It's almost like the pressure gets increased and therefore I do better but look worse. A bit of weirdness here. So, and I think I know what the answer is. I think these become essentially anti-air, but the 102 Anti-Tank Battalion comes in to begin with as a red unit, which means it has anti-armor capabilities. That unit has a replacement in here that does not have the red on it. Stronger defensively, and it's kind of a weird, I don't know what you're talking about anymore. Like, you would think it would keep its anti-tank capabilities. I don't know. I haven't found anything yet in the rules, and maybe somebody can correct me here, that has anything to do with these guys having any anti-air capabilities, whatever. Like, beyond they provide flak like any unit would. Basically, if you bomb a unit, it has flak capabilities. I can't find anything that gives a bonus for that. And maybe I'm just, not knowing something. Maybe something switched between versions and they stopped just giving flak inherently to units. Not to all units, just to these. But this was an anti-tank. I think it switches to an anti-air, and I've seen nothing that says anti-air has any special flak capabilities. So I don't know if that devotion changes, but whatever. I don't know what to say. Here's what are the flak die roll modifiers, at least under the new version. Headquarters give a flak modifier. This is for units. Airbase level gives a flak modifier. And value of map printed flak or total ship flak. Well, I don't have any ships in this game. They're abstracted away. And I don't think there are any map printed ones. I might find somewhere where I notice one. It would be tough, though. Mainly because where things are likely to be interesting, it's kind of hard to read the map out there. So, but yeah, there's nothing listed here. I don't know of anything here. Maybe in earlier versions there was some value to it. I'm not playing with earlier versions. They would tell me to include it if it was. And so that's the Brits on the board. Now it's time to get the Italians. I've already done the supply impact. That's already in play. I'm just checking all these things. This doesn't come into play until way later, so we'll keep that over there. Removal, that's the kind that really pisses me off, right? It's the 343 Machine Gun Battalion S. Maria. Perfectly fine unit. Actually, a very, very good machine gun unit, which means if I lost it, which I probably did, I probably rebuilt it, brought it all the way back. Luckily, it walked rather than driving. And now it was in a key location, being the quality unit in my stack. I don't know why this unit is being disbanded, but it's the kind of thing that just really frustrates and irritates me, because because of me not memorizing what units get withdrawn and what don't, nor using that information, I likely spent resources on rebuilding something that was going to be taken away. I would much rather that had a yellow dot on it so it wasn't rebuildable. And I assumed it would. And even that I would have been objecting to in the sense of, fuck, I would have taken it as a loss if I knew it was going to get removed, right? No matter what, these withdrawals and unit swapping and everything, they just piss me off in terms of the effects they have on my gameplay decisions. I have to play the game in a way that I don't want to, which is I have to scan these charts throughout the game every time I make a unit build decision. I mean, it's not possible. It's not reasonable, right? But if I had an electronic copy of the rules, I could do that. I could look for each unit by name to see before I build or whatever. Because if this was a dead unit that got removed, oh well, no big deal. Battery swap in there I had to make. But compare this to Desert Fox. Okay, I find the withdrawals and replacements in Desert Fox almost as annoying, but at the very least, if I didn't have that unit available, I would have to remove something else. Something would replace it in that removal order, which means and there were requirements on it. It had to be, same size, same type, whatever. But it wouldn't have to be the same quality, which means if I had lost that specific unit, I could pull, some stupid ass piece of shit like machine gun. I'm looking for one. I got these coastal defense and territorials. They're not it. But I think I've got some crappy machine guns. I know I've got some in the dead pile that are really much, much worse, right? That happens to be the very best machine gun unit. And I can understand why I wouldn't be able to have it throughout the campaign. But to me, it feels like, give it the yellow dot for can't be rebuilt. That would have been the best solution. It will probably have died by that point. And then you won't go through this stupid effort of rebuilding it and shipping it to the front to have it disappear anyway, which just pisses me off. So here it is, July, and we are ready to rip. I did get everything in place. Not much more to say. I feel like talking more, but we've got to clean these guys guys up. I got like, that one's in the right place, but I got these stacks that need to be consolidated. That's not actually out in the ocean, it's under these trucks. Funny, I opened up my windows and whatnot. You know, the same day, I don't want to play another turn right away, but I also want to babble a little bit. And this is where I put my weather reports and whatnot. It's close to 70 degrees out. It's like 68 degrees. I've got, you know, everything open, letting some air in, whatever. And it feels cold. I don't know. Now, it may not be 68 degrees here. It may be a little chillier. But it really, because, again, it's late in the day. I'm behind the hill and whatever. But it definitely doesn't feel like it's particularly warm. You know, it's warm enough to have the windows open, but my feet are freezing. Here it is, Saturday night. Pretty late. Not yet midnight. And I need to be away from Raid for several hours. Just the order the things take in that. And so I tried sleeping, tried reading, reading myself to sleep. Didn't quite work, probably because I made myself coffee. And so I figured, let's play. I know it's nighttime, it's hard to do, the glare, the lighting issues. And I got no applicable events, no weather. Axis got initiative. They're going to force the Brits to go first. And I rolled the British withdrawals. And they had to pull out an armored brigade and an organic truck. Not necessarily connected to each other, to the far east. Okay, well, hey, they're going over to the Burma map. I built myself a damaged armored brigade with one of my equipment pieces. You know, half a unit or whatever. And shipped that, and I shipped a South African truck because the South Africans, you know, the fact that they're irreplaceable units means that I kind of don't want to, use them that much. So I probably won't be motoring them around. They're also still green. I think those are correct. Like, I tend to move things forward and got rid of all my normals or whatever. I think I did that for this month. I could actually check and make sure. I did not move them, so we're going to take the 7th Australian off because it's normal, and the 2 South Africans go up there. And I got to swap batteries and figure out what the hell I'm doing. I don't expect much to happen, but whatever. Other than the drain of the replacement point, that, you know, I'm saving up to build a headquarters so I can actually conduct an operation. Nothing exciting happened with the Commonwealth. They're shifting their shit around, whatever. They did get something interesting. This little guy here, commando unit, can't really be used effectively with regular combat. Like, you can't use his incredible quality. He's got like a 5 quality. In order to like make a regular combat work better, which I don't know. I feel like in some circumstances you should be able to like get a +1 off him or something. I don't know. In the sense that these kind of special forces type operations could actually help a regular operation. But where he's really powerful is, look at that 20-point foot movement allowance. I don't know what that's meant to represent. Obviously, guys on foot aren't going to be able to move that quickly, but maybe they're on horse or something, but I doubt it. It's probably a mixture of different mechanisms, including like, I don't know, possibly even paradropping in as a tiny force or something. I have no idea what that's meant to represent. But it gives them a tremendous amount of range that they can strike, use their internal reserves, and do some kind of deep raiding. And that makes them scary. For the Axis, first of all, I finally managed to check the chart like on the first turn of a month, and yeah, I did the die rolls. I'm getting the game under control, kind of. Like I'm finally beginning to get used to all the different little mechanisms that I have to do at the beginning of each month, each turn, whatever. Well, vastly reduced supplies coming into Tripoli, and also reduced coastal shipping down to 1. So now we're down to that 3-1, which is shitty. Basically, my assumption is that the British ships are able to do a better job of interdicting, and with the Fleeting Corps not out there, there's more danger that I lose some of that. Not that that's such a, well, yeah, it is a big deal. Because I lose shipping, not supply points. There's a fairly large amount of stuff coming in. I also rolled maximal rolls for replacement points this turn for both the Italians and the Germans. Normally I get nothing. The vast majority of turns, I feel like I've gotten less replacements than I should, and now, boom, all at once, on a turn when I really can't ship. Say, dealing with the Brits, with the little pool of light, whatever, works fine. Dealing with the whole map, it's getting painful, and I think I just need one turn and call it a night on this. I've been trying to avoid, like, I did my goodbye Gloomhaven, right? I still haven't cleaned it up. Like all things in my fucking life, anything that's like, like this mess. What the fuck? Why do I have this? No good reason. That mess over there, that's like my wife's paperwork and everything. I need some of that, not most of it. I need some of that if I ever want to, like, try to claim my inheritance from her in Portugal. But yeah, I don't think that's ever going to actually fucking happen, and it just stays there to remind me. What about my fucking pants up on the thing? They've been there for, I don't know, weeks, many weeks, months. It's funny because, like, they change, and basically what happened was, hey, I put them up there to dry. They're still damp, whatever, when they go up there. And then, I don't know, I can't cope with anything anymore. I've always been bad at this kind of shit. I always just leave shit wherever the fuck it is if I'm not in the habit of doing everything, doing things immediately. I'm cranky and everything. I decided I'll open the door, let you guys hear the tree frogs. I mean, they're not hugely loud, but they kind of sound like crickets, but there's no fucking crickets. It's just weird. I think that's the end of the line for this turn. I guess the biggest thing, other than those awesome replacement points, which I've built up here, I did all my shipping, just regular troops coming in, because I've got tons of supply in Tripoli, more supply showing up there. It doesn't really help me. I'm trying to haul it out. Even with these reduced rates, there's still plenty coming into Tripoli. The problem is that my coastal rates went way down as well. I was getting really used to being able to schlep materials up here close to the front. That's no longer the case. I did fly my one in, but I guess the big additional thing is I got a bunch of airplanes this turn, and so I deployed them. A lot of fighters. Now, the Brits are getting fighters too at the same time. This is basically the, if you start to lose through attrition and usage and whatever. Well, here comes some more, but we've been seeing so little fighting over the past month, and I expect to see very, very little in the near future, to be honest, as well. So both sides are just building up. The question just comes down to, how bad is this? How bad is this defense? How permeable is it? Because I'm kind of committed to it. What the hell can I do? If I get a lot more troops, maybe I put another stack in place here, but eventually, one of those hedgehogs falls, and then the whole thing kind of collapses, and then I have to try to figure out what the fuck to do about it. There are no roads back here, so I could kind of fall back, I don't know, to here or something and hold a river line and this, but I probably want to have something back there to prevent, those commandos from doing any real damage. I'm really worried about them. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. I've got to think about them. That's the kind of special case unit that, like, maybe it has a huge impact in the game. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I know they made attempts to make long-range raiders less effective in OCS. But those rules got withdrawn in later, in these later editions, like the Godzilla rule and stuff like that. Zilligod. Okay. And that's it for tonight. I can't keep going in this dark. Okay, so here we are on a very nice Sunday morning. I gotta check email. I'm trying to set up a walk again this week. But anyway, I decided I'd play a little bit of this, like a turn, and then see if I need to eat right away, or if I can go down and deal with the last bit of the yuck that's down there. I mean, it's really kind of icky because it's all kind of wet. That part of my yard turns into a swamp. Anyway, event-wise, we had two things happen. One is sandstorms, which have hit everything except the second and third map. That's going to be obnoxious for the Axis, kind of reason to avoid the Tripoli map. Unfortunately, I have a truck over, not the Tripoli, but the El Aguila map. Unfortunately, I have a truck in Tripoli, which is going to have to expend movement points over there. I also have most of my resources in Benghazi, and that's the only place that stuff gets hauled into. So it's kind of hard to avoid the map entirely. I could try to focus more on moving these forward. And we had an event. Rommel trains his panzers, and you don't need Rommel for this to happen. It is a way for the Axis to have to use the DAK headquarters and expend 2 supply points. I can afford it. And, I don't remember when it is. I'm sure we're getting there. When the Axis, so there's an Axis similar to the green status that the Allied divisions have. There's something that I think all the German units, I don't fucking know, are impacted. Acclimation to the desert. Until October 41, all German units have a -1 modifier to their action rating. It's not quite green, but it's, it's not great. And all those good German units, all those green Commonwealth units, it's a rule that could have just been left out because they kind of balance each other out. and just put the numbers on the counters and say, you know what, leave it as it is, whichever way you want to have it. Again, it's this overemphasis on getting all the little details, all the little edges just aligned exactly properly. And if you throw too many rules to do that, like if you write too many special cases to do that, well, some of the times at least, people like me, and I think the majority of gamers, are going to forget that some of these exist. Anyway, the Brits got the initiative. They're going to force the Axis to go first, because that allows me to do some artillery bombardment, right? I think so. If I didn't have essentially infinite supply, I wouldn't even consider, like, just shelling someone for the sake of shelling. Even though historically, that kind of stuff was regularly happening when lines were close. The idea of this sort of attritional type warfare, firing artillery and everything, now you cannot afford this in OCS. Now, I don't know. Last couple of days I've played, including last night, I was fine. Today, I'm having trouble with the counting, and I gotta say, I forgot about the sandstorms entirely. Now, what is that gonna impact? I'm gonna have to undo a little bit of movement here, I think, and on that map. But beyond that, just doing the trucks, I'm just running from Matrua to Tobruk or whatever. Maybe because it's different locations now, I'm having trouble. But I'm having trouble with not looking up the little the cities or whatever, but with the actual counting of three hexes for one movement point or whatever. I'm actually having difficulty with that, and that may be what went so well. What was it, Thursday or whatever? Was that I just was not having difficulty at all with my counting. What really sucks? The event that I got, the trading the Panzers. I'm just making sure. I can't use, I would love to, like the 5th LE and 15th Panzer's organic trucks to do this. I've got to use the actual fucking supplies that I actually have. And these would be great because then, okay, yeah, go on your trip back to Tripoli because you just don't matter. The supply points you're carrying honestly don't matter right now. I've got everything all factored in and handled. You know, one thing with a lot of the Picayune stuff, the shipping, all the different, points and how complex, not really complex, that's not the word, but how tedious and whatnot the process of moving the supplies is. Similar to lots and lots of rules overhead, possibly costing at least as bad a mistake, or at least as bad mistakes as any kind of, like if you took that the German training and the green units for the Commonwealth and just kind of said, balance them out, right? It's about the same across the board. You would end up with something that largely plays the same, where you miss out around the edges, you would cause about as much difficulty in terms of forgetfulness and other problems by adding that extra rule overhead. The mechanical tedium and the overhead from that is even more worrisome, because there you and I mean, we've gotten the rules overhead stuff, like the fact that you know, having to remember this in addition to all the other rules and boxes and charts that I have to remember? Well, that just didn't happen for much of the game. Having to notice the supply, the logistical charts and the changes that they reflect. Again, so many places to check, so many things that you have to do continuously. And so easy to forget them, that much, much bigger mistakes can happen than if things were more easily and smoothly covered. If a little bit more was abstracted away. Okay, good enough. Maybe I should be playing Africa, right? Yeah, maybe. If it wasn't a laminated map, I'd like it a lot better. I should not have bought a used game with a laminated map. That pissed me off. I knew I was doing it, and I thought, I'll be able to cope with it. Yeah, it's horrible. It really, really glares. Although gamers' games do. But what I was trying to get at was all this little fiddling with the counters, the amount of how much I have to move the supply markers around in this game, as compared to most OCS, I think. It's just that. The amount that I have to deal with the individual transport of counters, rather than some kind of smoother system like I suggested with an off-board, you know, supply system chart that allows you to move them a little bit more compactly. All that fiddling around leaves me with these worries that maybe I'm losing large amounts of supply points or gaining them just by accidental, like, mismanagement, as opposed to like, oh, the trucks didn't move quite as far as they should have, or they moved too far this turn because of the weather or whatever. Oh, those little mistakes, yeah, those probably even out to any kind of like abstraction that would go into the type of system that I'm talking about. It's the big mistakes, like, oops, 20 extra XP showed up because I fucked something up and flipped a counter the wrong way or something. Yeah, you know, that's not going to happen, but certainly I could see a few extra, somewhere in the range of 2 extra SP, showing up in various places because of that kind of shit. And yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. That can be a big effect. Or maybe not if it's in Tripoli so much, because who cares what's there when it comes down to it. Anyway, I think I'm on, well, it's time for the Brits to start firing their guns. Fire all of your guns at once and waste some more supplies. And so at the cost of all these reserve markers, which is why I can do this, because they'll be going back, you know, next turn, whatever. I'm able to cause a couple of disorders. I had a shot at causing a step loss, but basically nothing happened. I burned a couple of supply tokens. I actually moved so normally I can't use the brigade units to fire artillery, but if they're in reserve, like this guy was, he can move forward a hex, so he's in range and fire his artillery as well. So the only time you can defensively fire is basically if you're committing reserves. I mean, look, you can put a reserve marker on a frontline unit, but you don't want to do that because the opponent will overrun you, you know, and you'll be at half strength. So yeah, it's just ugly. All right, on to the Brit turn, and I gotta swap batteries. Not much from the British turn, although I'm glad I have these still on the map. Otherwise, I would not notice. Like, I just forget about them, which is fine. I mean, I know they're supposed to be under reserve, but when I'm fucking around with them and actually firing them ever, it might become fuzzy whether or not they are deservedly in reserve. British turn fairly easy, although I did have to withdraw another infantry brigade out to the Near East, which I like to have them facing face up. I don't know. It just makes me happier. Which is really becoming a fairly serious drain. I've got some. If that drains faster than my reinforcements are coming in, I'm in danger of the Axis being able to launch an attack. That seems unlikely. What it really is doing is just preventing me from launching my own attacks, which is absolutely historically accurate. Like, the constant drain, you know, on the Commonwealth position might not have caused the delays, but it sure, like, made the local commander, you know, say, yeah, you know, I'm trying to build up enough supplies and troops to be able to launch an offensive, and you keep taking them away. Now, to some extent, I think the fact that no offensive operations were being undertaken is part of why they were having their troops stripped from them. Which, it's one of the things that I find really weird about the scripting of this game. And so, someone else, I'm sure they're replying to my comments on it. But someone mentioned, you know, given that your campaign is completely different, does it make any damn sense that, like, troops would be being withdrawn when they are and where they are? And it's like, yeah, you know, in the Desert Fox, you have the right to say screw you to a withdrawal demand and to pay victory points for it. Because this game doesn't have anything like victory points. It doesn't give you any tools to balance out that kind of the seriousness of, yeah, you know, I can't commit that unit to the Near East, right? It's a cost that's very high in Desert Fox, but it means that you will not lose Alexandria, right? It's possible here that you're forced to withdraw stuff and you're just kind of fucked, and there's not much you can do about it. And Churchill's just like, no, I don't give a shit about Alexandria, and I don't care if you lose India. Fuck you. I've got to send troops to Greece, you know. Yeah. I got all the big stuff from down there out. There's a lot of crap down there, and then there's some vines that are in my yard. But basically, there were a couple of full-sized uncut branches, and you know, not terribly heavy but long. And either in carrying one up, the first one up the hill, or throwing it like a spear, one of those things, or maybe it was some of the smaller stuff, one of those things sent my back into tremendous pain. And it wasn't like, you know, it's funny, it's like, you expect to feel it right away, like, oh, I just did something stupid, that hurts. It wasn't like that. It was, you know, later on, like the next thing I was picking up or whatever, I'm like, wow, my back really hurts, just for no, you know, without a real connection to where it was. So, although I intended to do the rest of the work in the clothes that I've already gotten kind of muddy and all, just the bending, the amount of bending that would be required to pick up all the loose stuff, it just sounds so horrible. But yeah, I guess I learned my lesson about you shouldn't do things. Okay, and the Brits keep the initiative. They're going to keep the Axis going first so that I can keep pumping artillery into those Axis locations. And why did I take the disorders off the map? Yeah, they shouldn't be off. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to do anything about it, but, well, now wait a minute. Yeah, if the Brits wanted to attack, this would not be a bad time. Because I have this and this disordered. I may not even be able to play this. Like, I'll get this turn done, but wow. Fuck me. I really should learn not to do anything. Not entirely sure. I'm just trying to think, do I want to launch attacks? I don't think so. I think I want my attack to come from down here. I did get an interesting rare event, not the ultra rare, but it didn't happen. It's Rommel brags to Mussolini. Basically, he says he's going to be in Cairo, but it's negated if Rommel's not in the game. But it would have forced me to make 3 Axis attacks this turn, which would have been hard with those disordered results. And the fact that the Brits are kind of not really anywhere accessible except crossing the river or whatever. That would be a nasty event. Luckily, with Rommel dead, he can't do that. And DAK leader is nowhere near as audacious. Some quick thought, those disorder markers wouldn't be there. This would have happened. They were placed in the early part of the turn. I've completed all the movement. I'm just doing the shelling now. And for the British side of the turn, nothing exciting really happened. No withdrawals or anything. I got a couple reinforcements. I had a removal. Had to pull an armored car battalion off the board. I don't remember where it was. It was actually the Royals. They were actually there. So I've actually weakened a stack, but it's not by much. It's a 2 strength point unit. Decent quality. It's a shame to lose, but I'm not moving stuff around to fix that kind of issue. But I netted another one of these commandos, this time the SAS, and another brigade. So, we're kind of keeping even, but I need to get materials together to build a headquarters, or else someone give me a headquarters, but I don't know if and when that's ever going to happen. I know that there are more core headquarters here in the box that I haven't pulled out yet. So there's got to be some opportunity to get some later in the game, but right now the only thing I can rebuild is that Western Desert Force, and that is not the best headquarters in the game, but I do want to launch my attacks at some point. I don't know if I have the forces to do so right now. So I'm kind of torn between hey, do I just keep building up defenses, or do I try to test the Axis defenses here and maybe force them back at a time when I'm not as capable of taking advantage of successes if they did build a shitty defensive line, which I kind of suspect. I mean, I know, but as the Commonwealth, I feel like I kind of suspect that defending all this territory is a lot harder than defending, some of the lines near the coast. But there is fallback positions and whatnot. All right, I don't think I can actually play. My back is hurting too fucking much. Back's feeling a little better. I'm gonna fuck around with more of the crap, but well enough that I can play a little bit. And let's see, we got no weather, no event, Barbarossa again. Brits got the initiative once more, and they'll continue that same route. So far it hasn't paid anything off, but that's okay. Slowly continue my process of marching my foot soldiers or my troops that could be motorized, but I don't want to waste fuel on them, forward. I run into this, a divisional artillery unit. Kind of like the brigade units. I'm a little iffy on this one. It's got a slow movement rate. Sure, it's motorizable, whatever. And I'll probably send it to the front because of that. But it's got a lower range than the artillery that, like, the heavier stuff that I have available. You know, like things like this have a 3 range. And it's not necessarily the strength point. So like this one only has a 2 range, it's a 10. I don't know, that seems about normal. But sometimes there's smaller amounts of guns that have a better range. And it all makes sense when, you know, you consider it's different pieces of equipment, whatever. We're not specifying, like in a game like Vietnam, exactly what, you know, what kind of shells are being used here. Just the unit designation is being given, which I don't know. You know, honestly, I find I don't think they have unit designations. The unassigned artillery, like, to me, it's, well, what kind of artillery is it? That's all that matters to me in that game, because I have choice amongst all the different units. I don't have to, you know, I don't have to follow some kind of rigorous entry requirements or whatever with that. Other units do have their designations because they're important to the game. And not just swapping shit in and out. But anyhow, it is kind of funny because I would rather have longer range stuff up near the front, and the shorter range stuff, a lot of times I'm throwing into garrison duties in towns because I've got plenty of artillery at the front already. But the divisional probably should go up to the front simply because, again, I can move that whole division. Well, actually, it's the Trento. Yeah, I'll probably end up just fucking... Is it motorized? Yeah, it is. It's semi-motorized, I think. It's like, it doesn't really say, but it doesn't have a lot of movement. I actually probably will throw that into a garrison rather than put it at the very front, because it's not particularly fast. I compare it to the non-divisional. Yeah, about the same. And that's a non-motorized division, so I don't have an organic truck. I don't have anything that particularly makes it useful to push to the front. It's foot capable. At least there's that. All another relatively fast turn with nothing happening. Yeah, that's where the game has gotten to. You know. I thought I'd mention I'm reading the rules for Banish All Their Fears, and that looks really exciting to me. I have a game on that subject, well, actually 2 games on that subject, which I've covered by Berg. And they didn't quite work. Basically, I think it was called Great Battles, Great Leaders series. It covered really a few of Marlborough's battles. I think they all involved Marlborough, but I'm not positive. And the attempt to handle linear warfare the way that he did it, it didn't quite hang together. But Ben Hall brings such a brilliant, like, insight into, you know, hey, what if I do it this way? And I feel like, you know, he certainly works off of the existing materials out there. So like Musket and Pike actually owes a lot to some Berg designs. I'm thinking particularly Hastings 1066. But then this is just, it's sort of a more simplified Musket and Pike in terms of a lot of the aspects of it. But then it adds this whole overlay to handle the situation in which, like, the linear warfare, which allowed greater control of larger forces. So you actually have less control over your force than you're used to in any other system, including the musket and pike stuff. But because the armies have gotten so much bigger, this kind of extra layer of command and control had to be added over the whole system. And I want to see how it ends up working, but it's like that layer is handled by, and I think I mentioned this with you could do DAK with like an extra card. Some of that's influenced by this because just the idea of like handling what sort of, not just the orders, but its place in the formation situation is just really, really well defined by that sort of separate representation of the map. There's sort of like, it's sort of like a two-tiered system. One tier is your normal map with hexes and everything that you're going to move on and fight on. And then the other is sort of your command version of the map, which indicates, how things had to be, or how things are currently organized for you. It's just, there's something really, really clever about that. And there's other stuff going on to make that linear warfare really, really work, where formations have to kind of stick together and stuff like that in a way that, the old school of, as long as you're in the command radius type of shit. Yeah, no, this is just so far beyond that, and maintaining that strict linear formation concept. I could see this system going to later linear warfare, like the Frederick the Great era. It would need to have units that are outside of the command structure, but I think that's about it. Because basically the big change that happens, I think, between this period and the Austrian succession and the war for Silesia, 7 Years' War, is really that, like, they started adding units that weren't following the strict linear situation, that were able to operate a little bit more flexibly, the way that the old commands, the way that a whole army would operate before. Now you're beginning to add more flexibility in the command structure. And, likewise, that whole linear operations just disappears by the time you get, to the revolutionary period, where, at least for the French. I mean, the Prussians were still trying to fight a linear war in the first few coalitions. So I don't know. You might be able to like mix the two in together, because it's like there is something about trying to keep that strict linear structure as the only way that you can obtain the command and control. Like the newer mechanisms that allowed more freedom to commanders were not available to everyone, and but I think that sort of still applies when you get to the 7 Years' War. Even is that a lot of the linear command structure is still in place. It's just being enhanced. So you have things like Grenzers and Jaegers and stuff like that that are able to operate outside those normal command structures. And you may have a little bit more flexibility in terms of individual like lines. Into another half week, we had a little of everything. There's a sandstorm, but only here on this map A. I don't know. I don't know where I'd like it to happen. If it's going to only happen on one map, it isn't too bad, although it definitely affects the axis. Italians got an event, massive shipping success, where they get no rolls against them here, and they get to double their total shipping. Now, I don't think that includes coastal shipping, so it's not really going to help. You know, I got a big stockpile in Tripoli. It just means more material makes it through. That's fine. It's not a big deal. The Brits got their initiative once again, which means, seems to happen in clusters, that this stupid bombardment will keep happening. And that's about it. And I hope I remembered, I think I remembered to roll for withdrawals and whatnot last turn. But it's like, there's so many little pieces. It's so easy to forget something. I'm pretty sure I rolled, but I don't recall. All right, on the British side. They got a reinforcing brigade, great. But I had to pull an organic truck out and send it to the Mideast. It's hauling oil or something. It's all on its own. No troops were sent there. Yeah, we'll see. See what starts trickling its way in. I get some returns here, but I think they're all eaten up, right? No, Near East and Far East can send me forces back. So, like, I can both be committing stuff and getting stuff back and forth, you know, ping pong style. Anyway, this is part of another Indian division. Looks like it's completely fresh. I don't see any training marker on it. Oh, it looks like it's trained, which is kind of neat. And we'll start getting that in. I think that's the 5th Indian, but I'm not sure. What do we got? Yeah, 5th Indian. I've got British forces spread out. I'm trying to get them organized where they belong, like to get them into divisions or whatever, because that'll be helpful, I guess. At least if I want to do motorized movement. It's not really a big deal otherwise, because this game releases at least the Brits from the normal supply restrictions, like, you know, there's like requirements. I don't remember what it's for, if it's for fueling, I don't think it's for ammo ever. But I think for fueling or for eating off the map, they have to all take from the same supply source, like base source, which could cause problems if I have like stuff spread out all over the place. Anyway, with the heavier shipping, the sandstorm and whatnot, we ended up drawing supplies out of Tobruk and Bardia, so those are getting reduced. I don't know when we're going to be able to replenish them. You know, I don't know how big a deal it is, because it's like, when's the Axis line going to crumble? I don't know. Oh boy, yeah, here it is, Tuesday. I'm supposed to go for a walk today, late in the day. I'm in pretty bad shape though. My back is killing me. Anyway, like, it's really bad. The worst it's been in, I don't know how many years. I can't remember it being this bad since I moved to Eugene, so 7 years or whatever. No weather. We had an event, massive convoy raid, which means there'll be no shipping into Tripoli this turn. That's fine. I don't have anything in the boxes. I have plenty of supplies there. I have like 40, no, that's not a 21, that's a 210. I have 24 supplies there, you know. But I am allowed to do coastal shipping, I believe. Again, it says no shipping capacity for the turn. The last thing gave me increased shipping capacity, so I've got to read it the same way in both cases. Coastal shipping and shipping capacity are two different things. Brits got the initiative once again, So I'll do the silly artillery stuff again. And a little British artillery play. Actually managed to kill a step for the first time. Ooh-wee. Yeah, this is really painful. You know, it's at the point where, like, there's not much I can do without there being pain. Playing the game, every time I bend over, the pain gets bad. I can sit in my chair, but that's like the worst thing in the world for me. Just playing video games, although lying on my back sleeping probably wasn't very good either, because that's how it got worse. And I mean, you know, like the thought of taking a dump, I know how hard that is when my lower back goes this way. Fuck. It's just like really bad. Anyway, on to the British side. And the Brits are done as well. You know, I don't see them here. I thought there were lettered supply dumps. Maybe I've got them in a bag down there. I don't want to crouch down that far. Like, that's a fairly major effort right now. I seem to remember that I had lettered supply dumps, because I'm getting piles that are just, you know, getting to the ridiculous point. Once you start getting 20s plus piles of other stuff underneath them, I feel like it's time to switch to those lettered versions. I didn't think it would happen in this game, simply because, look, you know, the main supply dumps for the Commonwealth are infinite, and I wasn't really expecting them to move. I probably should have, because if I was like at El Alamein or something, I'd be shipping them a little forward, or at least off the city, so that I had a reserve supply dump in case, like, the Suez gets mined or whatever. For the Axis, doesn't feel like it's that bad yet, but it's getting close. It's getting close. That's gonna be a 20 there. You know, it's because nobody's doing a damn thing other than shipping supplies around. I really don't know about continuing. This is pretty bad. No, I think I forgot to mention, I had another infantry brigade pulled out to the Middle East last turn. So I'm not completely forgetting those. They're kind of baked in now. Let's see. We had, I haven't rolled for an event yet. I rolled weather, and I got, see, I wanted to tell you that, and then I get confused and forget about other things to check. But we ended up with sandstorms on the first two maps, which is not going to be good. And let's just take a look at the event. German signal intercept. We've already had this. I am essentially not playing with the divisional markers that way, so it's no big deal. The Axis got the initiative this time, and they're going to force the Commonwealth to go first. They'll silence their guns. I mean, it doesn't have to, but it's like, yeah, do you really want to not have your unit in reserve? It's probably safe. See, here's the thing. I can't even bombard in defense. Jesus, with the brigade artillery. So it's like, there's nothing that I can sort of do. And I've been through the options here before, right? So yeah, anyway, onward. A couple of other things. We got a return, pulled some South Africans out of the Near East, and it had to come from the Near East. The other two units are damaged. I don't have the equipment and the manpower to repair them, but the last two turns I've gotten stuff. I'm one manpower short of being able to build a headquarters and then start my counteroffensive, which is going to start super early, right? Like, this position is just tempting, and I'm going to go for it. Of course, as with anything in a war game, especially one where you're kind of blundering around a little bit, there's a chance it could all go to shit and the entire Commonwealth position falls because they make an attack too early. I like that facet of games. It depends, right? Some side of me says, look, the commanders know enough to know not to do that. I don't feel like that's the case here. I feel like there is an actual opportunity for the Brits to, lose it all by making this attack. I don't think it's likely, and that's why I'm making it. But I don't fully understand the odds. I don't fully understand the mechanisms under which I'm going to be launching an attack here. And what the hell? Oh, fuck. These guys did not move, and they should have. Do I want them right on the road? I don't think I actually, I don't know. I think I want them here. They're a little bit more protected there. It's nice to be on the road, but it's not necessary. And I'll be building a breastwork there during the Axis turn. Probably should have happened earlier, but yeah. In some games, I'm like, look, you would know what the enemy is like, and you wouldn't make these risks and whatnot. Here, I feel like I have a vague idea of the forces involved. The forces involved aren't the issue. It's not the chart and the forces that determine things. The chart's so random that it's actually more about, is this plan at all a good one? And that feels a little bit better. Like, it feels like I'm actually making the proper kind of decision here. And if I fuck up, it's because I don't understand, my strategy's bad. Except for one thing. And that thing is, there's mechanisms for using units in this game. And for using them, actually using the mechanisms of the game effectively can greatly change your odds on stuff. So, yeah, I could just fuck up my attack and make a really bad one, even though I have numerical superiority and everything. And you can make an argument, yeah, that's, that kind of shit happens. Sometimes there's a bad commander or whatever. The problem for me, though, is it has more to do with me not having seen any battles for a while, and in general, probably the bigger thing, just not really being comfortable with the system, so that I'm going to make the same mistakes over and over again, right? Okay. I don't remember where I am. I know I've got troops coming in, but yeah. All right, so I peeked in here, and no, there aren't any lettered counters here. I know where they're from. They're from the expansion, the yearly packet of counters. I could pull some out and use them for that. I may end up doing that because this is actually getting obnoxious. Otherwise, I might just make myself a little Cairo box. I've got to capture awards for Cairo. I could start putting the resources up there, and that would actually work just as well. It's not the same as these other boxes, but whatever. I don't think any units were moving over here, and that means I'm over on the Axis side. I got the problem of the weather, though. And the Axis is done, taking into account the slower movement speeds. But we did gas a couple of armored units up into place here. And, I'm still leaving shit like this by the roadside. It's just not worth moving. It's crappy stuff. I could, if I have the resources, when the Brits make it back, I might throw them in to help defend someplace, but they're really, really crappy. Now, I noticed something interesting about my cameras. I checked the other camera I have over there because it wasn't charging, and I'm like, is it out of batteries or whatever? I open it up, a little light comes on in front of the camera. I forgot, that one had a light. This one doesn't. Now this is a more modern version of the same model. It's just kind of weird. Like I think this one has clearer image. People have told me that. That could just be that. It could be a better resolution because this eats up power really fast. But it also could be that the lens is just cleaner. It's quite possible. I don't use that one because I had memory issues, but I think the memory issues had to do with the chip that I was using, the card, whatever, more than anything else. I was kind of surprised that one worked. I thought it had other problems going with it, but maybe the only thing it had was the memory, and then that turned out not to be the case. I have the feeling, though, that that's the second one that I had the little flip open viewer stopped working entirely, and I could record without seeing what the hell's going on, which I largely do anyway, right? That's why you guys get seasick. But also it made it impossible for me to like load onto the computer because I need some of the display information now. All right, so that pushes us there. We're getting close to the end of the month. Again, another month that not much is happening, but at least something's starting to promise to happen in that the Commonwealth's beginning to get enough points to build themselves the headquarters that they need to launch the offensive. I don't know if it'll fail or not. I have no idea. Like, it could go from anywhere from a complete failure, like Compass did here. My first Compass did because I ran out of supplies. Like, I tried to do it more aggressively. The kind of way people were suggesting, hey, you should be doing it more aggressively. I had more supplies in that first Compass, and I ran them right the hell out. Like, they just disappeared. I was like, well, what the fuck? So I tried to husband them more in this one. But I also cheated myself out of supplies for this one. So, yeah, the Brits didn't have enough, and they were more cautious. I basically lost all my supplies in the first time I played Compass, in the first attacks. And I'm like, okay, now what? That was supposed to be for the whole war? What the hell? Looked like one-turn supplies to me. There's definitely a facet of getting used to OCS on that side. So twice now I've failed on Compass, once on video, and it could flub like that. It could conceivably be worse. But it's also quite possible that this is just like an ineffective defensive line. I'm making it as solid as I can. I covered this. I think I needed to. But now I'm kind of spread out, And this whole flank is open. What the hell? If I could work things out, if I can get the headquarters. So this is the problem. The headquarters can get to about here, and then it can throw 12. This is 5 here, so I can threaten from behind. So if I do things right, I think I can demolish this position. But I don't think I have enough troops to do things right. Not and hold my river line, which is absolutely vital. Which means what? Do I move up and engage fully, or do I just wait? If I wait too long, the Axis might get enough troops to start bottling me up here, and then it's over. Like, then I'm crossing a bridge every single time. And yeah, that's no good. Because the Axis could bring another headquarters up. That would be problematic. Let's say I had supplies coming down this way. This wouldn't be a bad general area for a headquarters. I could get back to there. Would mean my supply dump would have to be somewhere around where DAK is. Now I could push DAK forward if that's the case, and maybe throw an Italian headquarters somewhere, you know, to help the flow if I need supplies. I do have another one coming in right now, and I've got them, like, you know, along the way in places they don't really need to be. Like, I got one in Tobruk. He does not need to be there. I've got one near Sidi al-Brani. That is kind of useful because that gets me back to Bardia. That one's kind of useful. I don't know if it gets me all the way to Benghazi, but it definitely gets me over here to Barca. It allows me to throw those a little further. So it's not terrible, but the Tobruk one could definitely get on the move. And I could, you know, if I park that here to utilize my big supply dump from here, and then move the DAK one further down. I mean, look, I got 3 units here already. Yeah, I should just be fucking doing that. Yeah, let me start moving that Italian headquarters forward. This isn't the turn to do it because I pay a little extra on movement points. But let me keep that in mind that, look, if I can bottle up here and here, there are no more crossings. And instead of using up 3 spaces here, I mean, yeah, there's these ferries, but I really, like, as long as I have some garrisons for my dumps and headquarters and whatnot, I'm okay. And I think it'll cost me less to defend up near Cairo than it's costing me to defend where I am, which is kind of like, oh, I could have bought RUs. It's a Stellar Conquest joke with this guy. Kind of want to name him because his name's so great. Ernie, who was a little slow, and I mean, you know, for a gamer, right? Like, you know, anybody who can cope with these games probably isn't below average intelligence in general, but he was definitely slower than most of us. And didn't always get the idea of stuff. And in Stellar Conquest, I don't know what happened. We explained, you know, all the roles, but you're doing a lot of your stuff secretly, so it's not really possible for someone who's playing the game to help someone who's not. Now, there were people around who were giving him advice who weren't playing it, but they hadn't sat through the rules and whatnot, you know, and maybe didn't know the game very well. They were, like, you know, helping him maybe with general concepts and whatnot. But these RUs are basically industrialization, and essentially your production from planets, you can basically double and even greater multiply the amount of production you get from the planet. And otherwise, you're limited by the amount of manpower you have, which has a fixed growth rate, you know. And so if you don't build RUs, you're going to get a significant reduction in how much you can produce. And I don't know, at some point, like, within the last couple turns of the game, he just sort of hits his head and said, I could have built RUs. It's like, oh, shit. there's two things there. One is, look, he missed the entire, like, the key to the way you kind of make the game economically viable, like the way that you bootstrap your stuff. He wasn't expanding at all, and we kind of knew that he was doing something wrong, but this was just such a fundamental oops. And then there was the fact that he kind of said it. Yeah, he lost a couple of planets because people started attacking him because he was obviously the weak man on the board. And I don't know. I think somebody captured one of his planets and was like, wow, you have a big population and no RUs or something like that. But then when he mentioned, when he said what he said, it was clear that he had no production anywhere, basically. It's a funny game for another reason. It was one of a couple of times where, I pulled a big psych trick out on my opponents. There was at least one who I know cheated in games like this, so he was an issue anyway. But actually, wait a minute, no. I was playing with two people who I know cheat in such games. And I won't name them. And so there actually was somebody who knew the game kicking around who was giving advice, but I guess just didn't mention the RUs or something. But yeah, they had managed not only to build up good economies, but to build planetary shields everywhere. And I had never researched planetary shields. And I guess they either thought that I must be cheating like they do, didn't realize they were cheating, which is another possibility, it happens, or, although I was used to them doing so, or that I was just clever enough in the game that their cheating was to try to like buffer between the two. But the truth of the matter was they both got it perfectly fine and were improving their production. But I totally shocked them because I never built planetary shields, right? Which they both did. I would never build them, basically. I believe like you want kind of a mobile military, and it's a huge expense to make your planets absolutely invulnerable to attack. But yeah, for whatever they did, they cooked their books so that they both got them, and then they were just shocked that I didn't have them. They assumed I would. I don't know if they assumed that I cheat or what. I really don't know, because I had a tendency to like still win games that they were cheating in. So I don't know. But it was just it was a weird situation, right? Not a game you want to play with people who cheat, because it's all paperwork on their own. Neither is this. Anyway, that's plenty of babbling. Is my back feeling better? I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway. All right. Squeezing out another turn. And yes, squeezed something else out, and it wasn't as bad as I expected. So I think I'm getting better. There's something going on with my power line. I don't know what the hell. I hope it's nothing dangerous. Like, to me losing power, for example. I'm assuming they're not going to kill themselves doing it. But there's stuff going on my street recently. Okay. Sandstorms everywhere this turn. And Axis got initiative. They're going to force the Brits to go first. Probably doesn't matter with the sandstorms in place, but leave it there. And we got another Rommel trains as Panzers, which means I'm going to lose another full 2 supply points that DAK has to figure out how to pay for, which will come from here. I can just take that off right now. Even though, because otherwise I might forget it. But if I remember it, I think I'll remember that see, they drove up. They drove up with had the cherry picker up part way, and then they just went for a little walk, walked back, and went away. Oh, what the hell? Okay, maybe they're coming back. Might as well roll, if the Brits have to go first, this, since I'm online. 21. We're going to lose an infantry brigade to the Far East. And essentially another turn just went by. The Axis got a couple of replacement points. And, you know, regiments are such a bum deal because they cost you just as much as a battalion to build. But this is a good enough regiment that I want to rebuild it. And I'm kind of iffy on building these shitty tanks. But it's Italian, so what the hell am I going to build with them? I don't think I'm allowed to build airplanes with them, so. I would love to build this thing back again. Yeah, trying to think. So the fact of the storms means that I don't make the move forward again. It would be a painful time to try to do it. So we push on into another turn. I'm gonna go watch. I'm watching this guy Joe Scott does kind of what's up with, you know, this kind of thing type videos. I watch a lot of kind of these weird sort of presenters just giving shit and with some images and whatnot. I don't know why. It's just been what I've been kind of hooked into recently, more than watching like the professionally, like I don't. It's hard to say what's professional anymore, right? Like, you know, I'm obviously not. This guy's obviously making his living doing this, and you know, it's not the level of like it's not like somebody going out and doing filming on locations and everything, trying to hunt shit down. It's just passing a lot of information. I don't know if he writes his own. The other guy that I listen a lot to, and I'm not sure why, because he kind of annoys me. Simon Whistler guy who's just like got 30 different channels or something. He basically knows nothing about any of this shit and is just reading scripts that are being fed to him. And, you know, at the very least, he absolutely makes that clear, which I don't know if all these others do. They have a team and whatever. You know, being the presenter. So there's so many different like roles involved in someone putting together kind of professional video stuff, right? And it's to do it right, you got a presenter who's, you know, and this is where the Whistler model works well, I guess, is that, you know, his voice is interesting or something, and the biggest thing is he's willing to just read scripts for, you know, 8 hours a day or whatever, basically. But they've got, you know, in his case, he's got writers, several different writers to get him enough scripts to be able to fuel this. He's got editors who, you know, and it's not like he's doing anything fancy, right? For the most part, he's just got someone who cuts his clips together and like, you know, maybe throw some memes in and stuff that are kind of annoying too. That's why I say I really don't know why I watch him. He's kind of fucking annoying. Whereas some of these others are mainly just, you get the feeling that they're doing their own research and presenting it, but I don't know how likely that is. You know, I mean, to do one of these scripts and write it out, it has to take several days of work, right? And most of these guys put out about the right amount of content to fit with that, right? But if what you're good at is presenting and not necessarily doing the research work, well, why not just present, you know, and have someone else do the research and whatnot. Anyway, even the guys doing like the raid video clips and whatnot, they have their own editors and all this kind of stuff that they are able to pay out of whatever earnings that they get. And it's just like, wow, you know, it just feels so different, right, from the kind of thing that I feel like I do, right? Well, it is. They're operating like a little business, like a little production studio, and I'm operating like a guy with a camera. On the final turn of July, the weather clears up, and the Axis gets initiative yet again. The Brits had a withdrawal, not off the chart. It's going to be removed. I think, I don't know. Let's just put it there and try to figure it out. The Axis got the Brits got a withdrawal of one of their artillery units. I was able to find it within a minute or so. Truck is back. Actually, they don't have the cherry picker up. I may have been mistaken before. They're up to something, tinkering around. It worries me, man. And I think that's about it. Changes with the weather clearing up. The Axis has started moving down, covering this river line. We've got no reserves back here. Can't do anything yet. This river line I did not cover. I could have with mobile movement. Might be worth it. Let me see, because these guys, they don't lose that much strength and they don't lose quality by going mobile. And if I push them down, this is an Ariete, this definitely. Let's go down there. Yeah, it'll save me fuel to move these, and then I'll actually move these as well. I'm in supply. I actually was in supply before cutting this way. The DAK is that good. But, you know, some possibility of transiting supplies over to this rail over here and getting things, you know, getting some kind of force together there. So I want to be certain. But yeah, I'm gonna move these guys down too. These guys were not motorized. They're walking. So this is the main place where an attack could actually happen. We'll see. We'll see what the Brits do. But by grabbing the river lines, I'm putting myself in a position where, yeah, I'm at more risk, but I really wasn't buying that defensive line was valid. Otherwise, you know, shipping materials, whatever. Forgot my one token that flies into here. I used up a lot of supplies to start moving all those units. You know, there's almost no divisions that are big enough to be worth moving all as one anyway. So we don't have any fuel markers there. And I guess this brings us to the end of the July video, which means I'll push this one up. Looks like exciting stuff's about to happen, one way or another. I mean, the Brits have to do something about this. They can't be bottled up everywhere on the river. So, yeah. And I've got supplies here. I've got no problem. Worse than that, the Axis has absolutely no air power now here. Now, let me fix that. Let me fix that. Because if that's important, let's see what we got. We got a fighter here. and a fighter here. Let's get a better one here. Let's get a couple of these down here. Let's shift. This is an airstrip. It can only hold one, and I didn't have anything that could be there. This can hold. This can hold shitloads. I don't think I have any other air locations anywhere down here. So yeah, this is the only thing that I could have transited to. I'll put my best fighter there and we'll see what it can do. I kind of don't like this guy being there. He's not really doing any harm. Yeah, I'll want him there. All right, that's fine. I don't have any fighters back here, do I? No. Okay. So we're in a position where we have at least minimal fighter cover, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not to the important location. We still don't have it there. So, you know, I'm going to have to build up some infrastructure and everything if I can hold. But if I can't hold this line, well, this could be the end of the Axis near Alexandria occupation. All right, let's send it up. Of course, I got to come back and talk a little bit. So, it's a shame I didn't do this right away. If I had set this up to begin with instead of this line, I bet I could have gotten away with it. The Brits were weaker back then, and I probably could have had them just bottled up in the river and really have a hard time cutting across. As it stands, they got a crapshoot to try to get across. If that doesn't work, wow, I don't know, man. I don't know. And any attack I set up or something, somebody like this could actually fuel up again and run some additional units down there if he gets a lucky die roll or something. So there's no artillery down here, but there are planes. There are planes. All right.